what we're fighting for oftentimes, I think people don't know, is dream space, right? Like our freedom to dream, and also the space to dream, right? If you can't imagine your freedom, you can't imagine a thing, then you will never achieve it, or you'll never make it real, right? So anything that's real started as imagination first. Look, Prince, I thought deeply about this. Hamburgers. My name is Terry Marshall. I'm the founder of Intelligent Mischief. It's a creative studio for social movements. We focus on storytelling for Black liberation and reigniting imagination around that. The mischief part of the name links us back to, I would say, the trickster character that happens throughout like African diaspora folklore. All cultures have a trickster character, but Black folks in particular have used it to for survival. So what mischief means to us is survival and like and actually prospering and using trickster ways to achieve that. So Blackwise Survival Guide was a multimedia project that is satirical in nature that came about as a response. We developed it as a response to the murder of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman, which then, later on Ferguson and the killing Eric Garner, all these uprisings started happening in the United States from like 2012 up till now, still going. Before Trayvon was even killed, I took part in an artistic activism class, and a person in the room gave out a challenge and said that, well, you can't use humor, like satire humor, around police brutality, right? And we thought it was like, well, this is the only way to combat it, because you can't combat it with logic. We had to use surrealism. And so, we came with the Blackwise Survival Guide. We came with the ridiculous tips, like somewhere like Black people keep your hands up at all times. And we came up with that before Mike Brown was killed. Which made us question, like, wow, we came in, the surreality is catching up with reality, right? And we also had tips like Black people should have like every number ID on them at all times. Things that was just impossible to show the absurdity of the situation. And so one of the main purposes of the project was to delegitimize the power of racism in police institutions that operate in a racist manner, right? And empower folks by like laughing at this thing. Like if you could laugh, you could laugh back. It's like some way that's like re-empowering. You're like reclaiming some power. And at the same time, we realized we did workshops, so crowdsourced a lot of the tips. And we started realizing, like, even in the workshops that we did, and when people was like developing their own tips or going through the process, we used a design process for folks to think about this and using world building methodology, that the laughter was also healing for folks. So one way is like, it's taking away, people who have power is taking their power away by laughing at them. And at the same time, it's like healing. It was like folks were reflecting on their own trauma. We often measure movements by what did they achieve, what was their success, right? There's a book written by Robin D.G. Kelley, who's like Black radical historian and activist. He has a book called Freedom Dreams. And he thought there was some importance of actually looking at what was the dreams of those social movements, right? What was they dreaming about? What the dreams and imaginations is what produced those social movements, what pushed people further, and that the struggle for those things aren't over, right? As long as the dreams are there, you can look back at the dreams or still look at the dreams as a roadmap and as a resource to push, like we're still pushing further, right? Like people often ask, like, what's this type of work? He's like, yeah, like it's like we're fighting for imagination. We had the battle for imagination, or like the right to imagine or to see ourselves a certain way, even if that's not the current reality, and to make those dreams a reality. You know, like I came out of like just grassroots organizing. It's very hard doing that work and be able to like, see the trees for the forest. Like people talk about that as organizers, right? Like you're just pushing like nose to the grind, you just got your head down and you're just grinding, trying to get stuff done. And a lot of times, because when you're in that position, you don't have time to like vision and see a larger vision, right? So it's important for folks who are like knee deep in organizing, especially in very like traumatic issues, like to sometimes take a break. I was in marches and protests and helping do direct action in Ferguson during Ferguson October. And I remember, you know, like you're going against like armored car tanks, police tanks, and like tear gas and like rubber bullets and things like that. And I just remember when I got back, at the time I was living in Boston, I remember all I wanted to do, I was like, yeah, I just want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I just want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, you know, that may seem like, it seems like a silly thing, but I think our most silliest things are like when we feel safe, right? And those things are like healing too. Young me. I mean, I guess it would say trust your story. You know, trust your story, trust your struggle. You know best. If you're most affected by it, then you're gonna know the solutions, right? Like each of us have something to contribute. Human beings are narrative creatures. Like we survive by narrative. We use narrative to help guide ourselves, right? So if we're building our own story, then trust that your story is helpful to building something that would be freeing for all.